No, it isn't.
Denji, お前も好きだったろ。
何のつもりだ。
Chainsaw Man is undoubtedly a Goliath in the manga and anime industry, and that is a thing that I just gotta swallow and accept because in no way does it make any sense. Yeah, it's a shonen manga, but I think it's fair to say that it's definitely not the same as most other shonen. Naruto wants to become the Hokage, Deku wants to be the #1 hero, Luffy wants to be the Pirate King, Goku wants to be the strongest. Denji wants to grab tits. Yeah, you know, actually, it makes sense that it's popular. With the success of the manga, the anime's debut is bound to make a splash, and in reality I'd say it made less of a splash and more of a tsunami. But tsunamis aren't necessarily a good thing, believe it or not. Many have come out to say that the anime didn't live up to the hype that surrounded it, that it feels different than the manga. While some criticisms are certainly more valid than others,
man, shut your bitch ass up.
Even I have to admit that I felt a difference. I want to preface this by saying Chainsaw Man is one of my favorite stories of all time. It's weird, goofy, almost difficult to take seriously at times, yet tells one of the most gripping and tragic stories I've ever read. So far this has held up for both versions, yet have done so for different yet similar reasons. And I think to understand what I mean is to understand the fundamental difference between anime and manga. I heard something from another YouTuber recently that sums up this difference between the two, so I'm just gonna borrow it quickly. Reading a manga is like looking into the mind of its author, their personality, passions, beliefs, I don't know, f***ing fetishes. They all get translated from mind to paper. The Chainsaw Man manga has always felt unique, but looking into the mind of the author really lets you understand that this style stems from a man who should not be left unattended in public for any amount of time, period. Tatsuki Fujimoto is a genius author, but by genius I mean less of the Tony Stark type and more of the Vincent van Gogh type. He ranges from the worst singer I've ever heard to trying to levitate on camera. Remember when I mentioned fetishes? The character of Makima was created from the girl he liked in college, who flipped over his bike for no reason and said, "What are you gonna do about it? Huh?" The guy literally runs a Twitter account where he pretends to be his own little sister and has cutesy interactions with himself. As far as I'm aware, this man does not even have a little sister. So not only is he imitating a little girl, but it's an imaginary little girl. Then this caught the attention of his editor Rin, who assumed it was some sort of crazed fan imitating a relative of Fujimoto, making him want to sue, only for him to learn it was Fujimoto the whole time. All this, then the fucking elongated muskrat himself tried to ban the account for imitation, only for Fujimoto to beg and plead that he was the one running the account and not to ban it. God damn! Of all of Fujimoto's works, Chainsaw Man seems to be the most watered down from his style. Trust me, ask anyone who's read Fire Punch. That being said, Chainsaw Man is undoubtedly Fujimoto. It's hard to really describe what that means, but for those who are fans of the man, you know what I mean. The unique way he draws his characters and his worlds, the jagged, almost messy nature of his drawings, even just the way his panels are laid out, all of it is very distinct and very him, and that style of drawing seeps into the story itself and very much sets its own tone. Reading the first chapter of the manga instantly sets the feel for the story. It's goofy, but not goofy from being funny necessarily, more from just how ridiculous and chaotic the scenarios are. Plot points like Denji having to sell his balls are so over the top that it conjures like a gut reaction of just what the f***. And it's things like that which make the story not take itself too seriously. Tonally, especially for the earlier parts of the story, it makes sense, but there is a noticeable change in pace in the later chapters. As the plot begins to thicken, the tone feels much more grim and real than earlier chapters, and it presents a stark contrast. So as much as I enjoy the entirety of Chainsaw Man's manga, I do have to give some credit to the anime for trying a slightly different approach. Instead of feeling like a story written by a nutcase, the anime takes itself much more seriously. That grim tone that can be felt in the manga's later chapters are there from the very beginning. The atmosphere is dense, almost suffocating, yet those human moments stand out even more than they did in the manga. Don't get me wrong, I know the dialogue is pretty much identical, but those anime exclusive differences like sound, music, and detailed backgrounds, it creates a much different environment compared to its predecessor. I know a lot of people were expecting this vibrant world with over-the-top animations akin to something like Mob Psycho or literally anything Trigger has made, but I think that feel would only really work for the very beginning of the story. The advantage of starting the anime like this is that the whole runtime is going to feel like a natural flow of events and not suddenly take a huge tonal shift for certain arcs. And even in the manga, that Fujimoto feel is still going to be present in those future arcs, especially whenever Denji is on the screen, but the moments highlighting the story are going to be elevated because of this change. Though I gotta admit, making the whole show feel more serious also kinda makes some definitely less serious scenes feel even more goofy. Like that scene where Denji realizes he wants to grab some honkers was not supposed to feel as serious as the anime made it feel. I mean, they had the music going and everything. Now, just looking at the feel of the show, there is definitely a difference. Just a change. Whether it's good or bad is up to you, but when I think of reasons why people are hating on this show, I think I have to address the blue whale in the bathtub. Yes, the show uses CGI. Oh my god, Mappa, how could you? The CGI looks fine. It's used so sparingly that it hardly matters, and the most important point of it all is that it being used means the rest of the show gets to look like this. Yes, the CGI can be janky at times. Boo fucking who. To limit the quality of the show to one minor gripe like that, especially when the rest of the content is movie quality, just feels silly. Cliff Notes version. I prefer no CGI at all in a perfect world. We don't live in that world. The animation still gets an A+ overall. At the end of the day, these changes are going to impact everyone differently. Like I said, I love the tone of the manga. Fujimoto really does a great job of making me question whether or not I live in a simulation. But the story is what really made me fall in love with the series. The anime changing the tone to fit a more serious yet impactful narrative does help to deliver that story even better in my opinion, and I really appreciate that. Right now for you anime onlys, the story is at its most basic point, and I know that's what everyone says about their favorite shows, but trust me, the story picks up fast. Do I prefer the anime over the manga? I don't know. It's hard to say that at this point, but I do see a lot of promise. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what I think, because all of you are going to end up hating on the show for reasons like they blurred the goddamn barf scene.